PM announces first COVID-19 case. Unitec considering possible shutdown. And everyone urged to know basic hand washing.
This is the National Emtv News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Saturday's news. Papua New Guinea now has its first case of the coronavirus. The announcement was made last night at 7:30 p.m. by Prime Minister James Marape. His announcement came 72 hours after samples were sent to the Institute of Medical Research for testing.
There is now a case established in Ley. A few days ago, there was a report that emanated from a test that was done by PNG Institute of Medical Research that did indicate possibility of a person infected.
The Prime Minister, who took a while to admit that PNG had reported its first confirmed COVID-19 case, said he was pleased that health authorities detected the case and isolated the 45-year-old mine worker in Ley.
To confirm further, we ran two tests. One test proved negative and wasn't conclusive, but a second test proved positive. And so we now elevated that candidate that we've confirmed as a person that is a suspect case.
The Institute of Medical Research also released a statement late last night confirming the test results of the probable COVID-19 case initially announced by the Health Minister on Tuesday, 17 March, was positive. IMR said this is now the first reported case of COVID-19. It is important to note that it is an imported case, and as of yesterday, 20th March 2020, we do not have any evidence of local transmissions in Papua New Guinea.
We were able to pinpoint exactly who he was with up until today, and those persons of interest associated with this red flagged individual has also now been found, kept, quarantined, isolated to ensure that they are managed. But 10 or so of them that is made contact with have been monitored and observed, and they, fortunately for us, have found no symptoms of the virus.
But what stands out are the inconsistencies by the Health Minister, the man's employer, and the Prime Minister and the IMR. Initially, Minister Wong announced a probable case. Hours later, Harmony Gold said the tests were inconclusive. This was followed by a Facebook post by the Prime Minister and the Health Minister saying the tests were negative.
We mustn't panic. In as much as we can, we have systems in place to monitor those who are persons of interest. Our hotline is active, and we should try to clear out or eliminate persons of interest who come in, who maybe showing will show to us that we've basically filtered ourselves from people who've come in and who are virus-free in our country. So that is in our interest, and I encourage our citizens to be informed and correctly informed that there is no mass people with the virus running around free.
Since Tuesday, political leaders have announced separate provincial task force teams to respond to the coronavirus. The police and the military have been put on alert to provide support. Michelle Stephen, National Emtv News.
In light of the coronavirus alerts that have been ongoing both in the country and abroad, Unitec Vice-Chancellor Dr. Ora Ranagi says the institution might face a possible shutdown if the situation worsens. He made these comments following the academic board's and senior executive management's decision to defer this year's 52nd graduation.
A possible shutdown for PNG's University of Technology in Ley is being considered in light of coronavirus alerts nationwide. Vice-Chancellor Dr. Ora Ranagi said this decision will have to be done through the Unitec Council in consultation with the management and the Department of Higher Education.
And we are always communicating with our executive management, with our council, and then with the Department of Higher Education. And And so when it comes to that decision, then that is what we have to follow.
And when we have a suspect case in Ley, then we need to step up. So the options whether we should continue or not, we will have to assess the situation on the ground, and then we will make a decision.
On Thursday, the Academic Board announced its decision to postpone the Unitec graduation indefinitely as a preventive measure due to the coronavirus. The institute is also setting up an isolation facility at the rainforest habitat. They have also banned sporting events on campus and are discouraging large gatherings.
Management is fully aware of the situations that are ongoing, and we will be informing staff and students of the issues that as they arise.
For the Morabit province, the Milford Haven and Bwima Road clinics have been set up as COVID-19 screening centers, where they are screening patients with cough, fever, flu, or shortness of breath. The public is continually being urged to practice basic hygiene rules, avoid shaking hands and close contact with others. Lucy Kopana, National Emtv News, Ley.
A resident of Ley says there's a need for more awareness on preventative measures of COVID-19 in and around the city, especially in the settlement areas. A lot has been shared on social media and through the mainstream media, which may benefit some, but not everyone. That's according to William Seru. He has also called on the government to take the matter seriously and inform the people properly on any updates of COVID-19.
We need to be informed. That's the thing where country, on top level, some administration, prime minister, health minister, they're not coming clear to us, people. Now, you people suppose it's just killing people. Now, suppose country administrative, national administration in already. You may do for distraction. Now, suppose all plenty of some Italy, na some country also plenty of man country where technology advanced na dislakain. You do them. All work die also. Now, you me. Now, suppose country no concern. Now, you me people here. I'm very, very dangerous now. Country or some national level or some Papua New Guinea government MMS looks away through health department. Awareness and big class must come. People must away. Citizens need to know. Health law, you mean this like I'm die. It's dead. Now suppose you mean already now all money dying, you may die. Now this is a concern where people you look at the level where you stop man. Awesome. Information has to be disseminated.
The Madang provincial government has allocated 250,000 kina to the COVID-19 response team in Madang to support plans to contain the global pandemic in the province. Madang Governor Peter Yama announced the allocation yesterday, saying he will use his authority to put Madang on lockdown in order to protect the people from COVID-19. He said Madang has a number of entry points where shipping vessels from big companies like Ramo Nickel and RD Tuna arrive from China.
Yesterday, a meeting was held between the Madang provincial government and the COVID-19 response team, which is made up of doctors from the Provincial Health Authority, with stakeholders from PNG Customs, Nakia Port Services and Police. The team has identified entry points where foreign vessels come into Madang, including the Ramo Nickel Basamuk Refinery and logging company sites.
With reference to our stance, we have identified all our entry points, which is the PNG Port Services down there, also the Basamuk point, also our log points, also certain areas in which we have active in and out movement of Chinese personnel, especially expatriates coming in from the country to the province and going back out. We haven't established any proper surveillance, especially at our airports here, because the main screening has been done in Port Moresby.
The Madang response team is here to get funds from the National Department of Health, including government sectors. The only support the team got was from the Chinese community in Madang and the Ramoniko company. For now, the Madang Health Authority is not prepared logistically and clinically to manage if COVID-19 arrives in Madang. The major logistical problems include personal protection equipment like masks and gloves, as well as identifying a quarantine facility and an isolation ward for the province.
So our main objective, our main focus now is to localize our objectives on the entry points. Prevention is the way to go. And if it does get into Madang, how well are we going to do that? So our major logistical problems are especially PPEs, personal protective equipments. We have also problems with locating and finding a proper quarantine area versus an isolation containment center for that matter.
The National Department of Health has not released funds for trainings of respective personnel, in particular health workers and the point of entry officers like quarantine and PNG Customs. For now, there is no preparedness plan for the hospital as yet due to funding constraints.
With respect to that training for that matter, the NDOH hasn't released funds for training of respective personnel, especially the health workers who will go out and then come and carry training for especially the point of entry officers like the quarantine, the NACI and the PNG Customs. WHO has already provided 3 nominee spots for training, which is going to be held on the 25th, 26th, 27th, which 3 of us are going to attend.
Where?
It's down at Mosby. The NDOH hasn't provided any funds for supplemental training as yet. But for the start, the 3 of us are going to come back and we're going to initiate the training for especially the people on the point of entry.
PNG Customs Madang manager says, according to the latest gazette issued, Madang has become the 4th point of clearance for shipping vessels. For now, there are no vessels going straight to logging ports in Madang. The vessels are directed to either Lae or Port Moresby for clearance before coming to Madang.
There's no vessels going direct to log ponds and to Basamuk. They're all cleared in Lae, either Lae for quarantine purpose before coming to Basamuk, or they are cleared in Mosby coming to Madang Interports coming in.
Madang governor who was present at the meeting was furious over the manner in which the national government is responding to this global pandemic. He has allocated 250,000 kina towards assisting the team while waiting for the National Health Department to release money.
I strongly believe that we must take some very drastic action in this country. Now, if it's for Madang, we have to shut down something, we must do it. If we have to be at the airport and we have to close down and tell the airline in Guinea to take all the foreigners who are not Papua New Guinea as foreign passport, tell them to jump back and go back to Mosby. Don't come to Madang, we have to send them back.
Martha Louise, National Emtv News, Madang.
The impacts of the ban imposed by the PNG government on cruise ships has affected East New Britain province as hotel owners and tour guides see a decline in the number of visitors. Following the coronavirus outbreak worldwide, tourism businesses in the province are cautious of a financial downturn as most of them are losing more than what they are making. Business owners are seeking answers from the provincial and national government on alternative plans to keep their businesses going until the ban is uplifted. So far, the East New Britain provincial government has responded, stating it may subsidize each business during the ban period. But the owners are uncertain if funding will be made available. More than 20 different tourism operators are worried their businesses would wound up before the ban is lifted. With the first confirmed case of the coronavirus in PNG announced, the public is urged to take precautionary measures to prevent themselves from getting the virus. Regular hand washing and sanitizing is vital to protect individuals from being infected. The awareness is more urgent now than before.
Washing your hands every day and regularly is one way you can protect yourself from not just coronavirus but from any other forms of sickness and diseases. When washing your hands, these are the 8 basic steps you should follow. Step 1. Wet your hands with water and soap. Step 2. Right palm over back of left hand with interlaced fingers and vice versa. Step 3. Palm to palm with fingers interlaced. Step 4. Back of fingers to opposing palm with fingers interlocked. Step 5. Rotational rubbing of left thumb, clasping right palm and vice versa.
Both sides, don't forget both sides.
Both sides, the other side, base of the thumb.
Yeah. Okay,
Step 6. Rotational rubbing backwards and forwards with clasped fingers of right hand in left palm and vice versa.
The other side.
Step 7. Rinse hands with water.
Belly is down, belly come.
And the final step, dry hands with a clean towel.
give our demonstrators a big round of applause. Thank you so much.
These basic hand washing techniques should be taught to everyone, especially children. This morning, children from the Bukbilong Pikinini UPNG Library Learning Center were taught these basic hand washing tips. The Bukbilong Pikinini held this hand washing health awareness in assistance of Protex and the Sir Brian Bell Foundation to promote the importance of self-hygiene to prevent the spread of infectious diseases. The children also had the opportunity to wash their hands following the 8 basic steps. They were also given a bar of soap each to take home to wash their hands with. Michelle Stephen, National Emtv News.
You're watching National Emtv News. More on the global response to the coronavirus when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Turning overseas, more than 250,000 people are infected globally. Markets in the US and Europe remain at their worst position in 3 decades as more countries face lockdowns, cancelled events and people urged to stay home. In Australia, the number of infections is over 900. Here are the latest figures.
Across Australia, New South Wales, 382 cases have been recorded. 51 new cases have been confirmed in Victoria today, bringing the state's total there to 229. Queensland has 184 instances, and in South Australia, 50 cases have been confirmed. 64 cases have been reported in Western Australia. 1 new case today in Tasmania has brought the state's total there to 11. 3 new infections in the ACT bring the capital's total to 9, and 3 cases are confirmed in the Northern Territory. That brings Australia's total confirmed instances of COVID-19 to 932, with 7 deaths overall.
The World Health Organization has issued a warning to young people who are statistically less vulnerable to the symptoms of COVID-19.
I have a message for young people. You're not invincible. This virus could put you in hospital for weeks or even kill you. Even if you don't get sick, the choices you make about where you go could be the difference between life and death for someone else.
The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced historic measures to keep pressure off the UK health system.
A bit of history on this, of course. Earlier in the week, Boris Johnson told everyone not to go to pubs, not to go to restaurants, don't go to cafes, but there really wasn't enough people listening to that advice. So now basically he has said that those facilities now need to close. So clubs, restaurants, cafes, gyms, leisure facilities, nightclubs, they all need to close by the end of this evening. So that's Friday night in London. And across the UK, they will all shut. Now, apparently, there will still be a takeaway facility available. I'm not quite sure how that will work. But let's, Joe, hear from Boris Johnson himself.
To avoid pubs, bars, clubs and restaurants, to work from home if at all possible. Keep washing your hands. And I know it's been tough, and I know it has been inconvenient. But these actions that we're all taking together are helping to take the strain off our NHS. And bit by bit, day by day, by your actions, your restraint and your sacrifice, we are putting this country in a better and stronger position where we will be able to save literally thousands of lives.
Well, that number, of course, continues to increase as it does across Europe. Now, Boris Johnson is saying if you stay home and you stay away from these restaurants, pubs, all of that sort of thing, we may be able to turn this around to stop the upward spiral. Now, we've seen in the UK, in London, for instance, there was a hospital that actually had to close down last night because it could not cope with the demand that was being put on it.
In the United States, New York has issued an executive order mandating all of its non-essential workforce to stay home. The state is grappling with the massive increase in the number of COVID-19 cases in recent days.
Well, as you can see, we're currently crossing to you from inside my living room. We're taking this as a precautionary measure. Washington, D.C. isn't yet in lockdown, but other states have been locked down. In New York, the governor there, Andrew Cuomo, today issued an executive order which gave him the power to make sure that 100% of the non-essential workforce stay home. That does not include workers and attendants at pharmacies and supermarkets. They will be exempt from the ban. But we heard from the governor today, who took on a very sombre, unapologetic tone and spoke about how these measures were necessary to try and curb the rising number of coronavirus infections there in his state. The number of confirmed cases has now risen to almost 8,000. He spoke about how there is a critical shortfall in key medical supplies like gloves, face masks and gowns. He spoke about how ventilators just couldn't be sourced and how that was absolutely necessary to treating people who have contracted the coronavirus. We heard him plead with companies to manufacture more of these medical supplies, and he even asked companies who don't currently manufacture them to do so if they could.
Why am I increasing the mandates? Because the numbers are increasing. And I said from day one, this is science and math. Watch the number, watch the trajectory. You have the density control valve. The number starts to go up, tighten the valve. If the number doesn't slow down, tighten the valve more. If the number doesn't slow down, tighten the valve more. If the number doesn't slow down, close the valve. We're closing the valve.
The United States, of course, closed their borders to travellers from Europe last week, and earlier this week they announced that they would be closing their border with Canada to all non-essential travel, but trade would continue. And today we've just heard that they will be also shutting down the border to the south with Mexico. These measures are being taken to try and stop the spread of the coronavirus across the continent into Canada and also into South America. This, of course, comes after the State Department issued a level 4 advisory for its citizens, which is the highest travel advice that the White House can issue. Essentially, it's usually issued when American lives are at risk during wartime or during natural disasters. So this is a very significant move taken by the White House. They have urged all US citizens who are currently abroad to return home or be prepared to wait out the pandemic abroad, saying that there was no guarantee that they would be able to get back into America for an indefinite period of time. Let's take a listen to the US President Donald Trump.
Every week our border agents encounter thousands of unscreened, unvetted and unauthorized entries from dozens of countries, and we've had this problem for decades. You know the story, but now it's with the national emergencies and all of the other things that we've declared, that we can actually do something about it. We're taking a very strong hold of that, and we have before, but this is now at a level that nobody's ever approached. In normal times, these massive flows place a vast burden on our healthcare system. But during a global pandemic, they threatened to create a perfect storm that would spread the infection to our border agents, migrants, and to the public at large.
That was the US President Donald Trump there taking us through the latest restrictions that the US government has imposed on travel in and out of the United States. They are yet to impose a travel ban more broadly than to that to travellers from Europe, but it is probably only a matter of time before that measure is implemented here in the United States.
You're watching National Emtv News. In the news ahead, the Kumul submarine cable moves to Manus from Wewak, and Ora Provincial Education Division improve on its services. Details after the break. Welcome back to the news. PNG is on the path to becoming a communication hub in the Pacific region as the Kumul submarine cable network project continues to roll out in the country. On Thursday, Manus became the first island province to be connected physically with fiber optics, making the province one of 7 international communication gateways. The project is set to be complete by mid this year.
The fiber optic cable landed behind schedule after a minor dispute with locals over compensation claims. This, however, was addressed, and on Wednesday night, the first land cable was fixed to receive the underwater connection from the cable-laying vessel. For years, the province has been connected through satellite technology that is limited in transmission capacities during bad weather conditions. However, this connection is the first physical connection and will be one of 7 international gateways connecting the province to the region. PNG Data Corps General Manager for Engineering Services, Tony Morris Sause, explains.
What it is Manus is one of the 7 Pupuke outlets. The Pupuke outlets are basically what we have designed to be the international gateway for Papua New Guinea. And at the end of the whole thing, we'd like to transform our country under the 2050 vision of our government and our country to make Papua New Guinea become a regional hub for telecommunication. And so you've seen we've landed Pupuke 1 that connects Jayapura to Vanimo. Pupuke 2 will be from Daru to Merauke and then on to Singapore. Pupuke 3 is where now the Killer Barracks is, and that's where the Coral Sea cable comes in from Sydney. Pupuke 4 will be Alotau, and it's already designed and geared up for that. Pupuke 5 is Arawa, Pupuke 6 is Kavieng, and Pupuke 7 is Lorengau.
These international gateways, dubbed the Pupuke, will be a platform the government will use to venture into the digital economy, something that was envisioned during the 2018 APEC summit held in Port Moresby. Moreover, the main objectives for now are to connect all provincial administrations, districts and the health and education sectors.
The 2018 APEC theme is taking fruition now if you look at it, and that's one of the things that our government has invested well in making sure that we bridge the gap in telecommunication and ICT, and what the services that we will provide throughout our deployment of the submarine cable is 3 important institutions we'd like to connect first, and that is all the provincial administrations, all the government setups, particularly the provincial government facilities and offices. We'd like to also connect the health, which is our hospitals, and schools.
Madang will be the next provincial capital to be connected.
And so the country is geared up for a great transformation. We'd like to encourage everyone to embrace this technology and this investment by the government. And yes, there'll be critics everywhere we go. We can manage them as we go. We've realized that it's about awareness and it's about information sharing. And so Data Corps has spent much of its time and resources making sure that we educate our people to understand what we're doing in a greater scheme of things and a greater picture of development and progress.
Stanley Ove Jr., National Emtv News.
The Ora Province Division of Education will now be able to administer the Alesco payroll system at the provincial level. This was made possible when the payroll functions were officially handed over to the province recently. Under this arrangement, teachers can go to their provincial headquarters to get help instead of travelling to Port Moresby.
Under this new arrangement, certain powers under the payroll system will be transferred to the Provincial Education Division to administer. The powers include vacation leave, compassionate leave, sick leave, maternity leave, among others. Teacher Service Commission Chairman Samson Wangihomi says under this arrangement, leave applications will be processed in the province.
The only province that we have transferred all the powers to is the Bougainville Education Department. For all the provinces, we are delegating our powers.
In past years, leave applications and other payroll functions were administered at the Education Department head office in Port Moresby. This has caused inconvenience for teachers living in the provinces, and some teachers had to travel to the city to have their payroll issues addressed. Education Minister Joseph Yopiopi says after the payroll powers are transferred to all provinces, this will be a thing of the past.
When they have problems, they will just easily go to the provincial headquarters and get the answers they need. Instead of traveling to Port Moresby, many teachers I see living on the street of Port Moresby, waiting for answers, and they stay there for weeks, even months. And you know who suffers? It's our very students, very children out in the villages, out in the schools who are suffering.
In thanking the Education Department for this initiative, Oro Provincial Administrator Trevor Magge stressed on the struggles they are facing in schools. He said there are over 65,000 students in Oro Province with over 1,800 teachers. There is a significant increase in the teacher-student ratio, and there is a need for more teachers as well as better school infrastructures.
And the demand for teachers, more schools, infrastructure and facilities are becoming prevalent. The introduction of the 166 curricula also adds more strain for the need to have key components of this sector to be made available as well.
The provincial administrator further spoke on the importance of managing workforce at sub-national level. He said as the need to employ more teachers increases, manpower management becomes a critical essence in making the sector work.
However, making this system become a workable tool has its own dilemmas. And you can all imagine what it would be like. But think of the positives and what we all can do to make this sector work for the benefit of all.
Rayon Lakingu National, Emtv News.
This government is committed to ensure every child in the country gets quality education. Education Secretary Dr. Uke Kombra made this announcement when launching the Alesco payroll system in Oro Province recently. He said for students to get quality education, the education standard in the country must be improved through different school programs. The Education Department is rolling out programs in school systems to ensure students get quality education.
Experiences of many people around the world. There are many factors that contribute to the quality of education. How we can improve the quality of education. I will only name three. The first one is to have a very conducive environment. A conducive environment, let me mean awesome. The community must be at peace. There must be peace in the community. There must be law and order in the community. Number two is the curriculum. We must have a quality curriculum. A curriculum with the content of its subject is very relevant and it's appropriate and it's also world class, meaning that it must be the same as anywhere in the world. When we have the content of the curriculum, we must also look at a teaching approach, how the content will be transferred from a teacher or a book or resource to a student. That's what we call a teaching process.
Up next, some sporting updates in Chukai Sports. Don't go away.
True
Kai Sports.
Welcome to Chukai Sports. Oceania Rugby has announced that Rugby Under-20 Championship scheduled for the 27th of May to 6th of June has been postponed to later in the year due to the COVID-19 outbreak, while the Oceania Rugby Women's Repechage game between the Samoa and Tongan sides scheduled for 18th of April has also been postponed.
World Rugby says Olympic Games repechage qualification tournament scheduled for June is under review, and World Rugby continues to be in close consultation with the International Olympic Committee regarding the implications for the qualification process in the event that the repechage is unable to be hosted due to the COVID-19 outbreak. Given concerns globally over the COVID-19 virus and the primary aim to reduce exposure and spread of the virus in public places such as sporting events, the safety and welfare of the public, players and other stakeholders is paramount. This decision was reached after reviewing the evolving COVID-19 virus both globally and in the region, which included the recently introduced strict travel, quarantine and public health restrictions which have been implemented across the region. Oceania Rugby General Manager Bruce Cook said Oceania Rugby does not take this decision lightly, but after much consultation, we have taken the necessary steps to ensure that the welfare and health of the players and the team management remains paramount. Cross-border travel is inevitable, and that brings with its unique challenges. However, the health and safety of our players, coaches, staff and fans are always our number one priority. Oceania Rugby is also in close consultation with the International Olympic Committee relating to the conclusion of the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games Rugby Sevens qualifications, specifically options to replace the final repechage tournament should that be required. So far, there are 2 women's and 1 men's teams left to qualify and are currently considering all options to ensure a fair and credible conclusion to the qualification process. Godwin Eki, National Emtv Sports.
This weekend is the first for all national sporting venues nationwide under the PNG Sports Foundation to be closed. PNG Sports Foundation CEO Peter Chamalili Jr. says the decision to close the venues was done to protect the players and the many fans during the COVID-19 pandemic.
We know that we mobilize a big group of people, cluster of people in different demographic of people really. So we kind of were in a position where this call for preventative measure was really directed to us, we felt, and so as an organization with all our stakeholders and through that consultation we agreed that this is what sports is going to do for the country and for all of us really, and it's about us individually and as a standing in solidarity with the government in helping Papua New Guinea. And so with the facilities where we have a lot of public usage, we have made a stern call that we will have our facilities on recess.
Chukai Sports continues with more after the break. Stay tuned.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome back to Chukai Sports. In NRL, hat-trick hero Kotoni Staggs has led the Broncos to a win over the Rabbitohs. The Brisbane Broncos are 2 from 2 after beating South Sydney 22 points to 18.
Despite dominating the first half, the Broncos found themselves behind by 2 points heading into the break. They had to play the second 40 minutes without halfback Brodie Croft, who left the field with an AC shoulder injury. Kotoni Staggs moved in the halves and starred in Croft's absence, scoring a hat-trick, including 2 tries in the second half to lift the Broncos to victory. Now, earlier, the Panthers recovered from being 10 points down late in the match to beat the Dragons 32-18.
another week coming up this week, make some team selections, see what we do there. But you know, he's just in a group of guys at the moment. They all want to lose the ball tonight. They just didn't want to hang on to it, and he just joined that group of blokes. Oh, he's a wonderful centre. He can play there. We all know he can play there, but I know he can play fullback as well. So we'll just I'll just have a look through the weekend.
There was no crowds, but Collingwood still delivered in their season opener last night. The Pies sent an early message to the rest of the competition, easily beating the Western Bulldogs 85-34 in front of empty stands. The Pies dominated from the opening quarter. They led by 26 at the first break and continued that momentum in the second term. The Bulldogs got to within 5 goals thanks to an improved third quarter before the Pies went up a gear in the fourth term. Brodie Grundy was best on ground with 37 hit-outs and 19 disposals, while Brody Mychek booted 3 goals.
We're just copping out if we blamed it on the circumstances. Halfway through the second quarter, I think we still only had 2 inside 50s or something, and we knew why. I mean, we're just getting dominated around the footy. I mean, you've got to give Collingwood a lot of credit for their intensity and their pressure, but you know, the shame of it all was that we couldn't match it.
To football, and a Socceroos veteran was a hero for the Brisbane Roar again overnight. Scott McDonald continued his great run of form as the Roar beat the Newcastle Jets 1-0. The striker scored his 4th goal in the past 3 games to ensure the Roar moved 4 points clear of the 5th placed Perth Glory. Newcastle fell inches short of a stoppage time equaliser. The result means their season is now all but over. Earlier, Jamie McLaren scored a hat-trick to help Melbourne City beat the Central Coast Mariners 4-2. Melbourne City are the big favourites heading into today's W League Grand Final. City are undefeated throughout the season and will take on defending champions Sydney FC. City thrashed the Western Sydney Wanderers 5-1 last week to qualify for the final, while the Sky Blues beat Melbourne Victory 1-0. The decider will be played behind closed doors.
And that ends Sky Sports. The weather details after the break.
Sky Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow. In the southern region, partly cloudy, then a shower or 2 tonight in Port Moresby. Mostly fine weather in Daru and Alota, Popondetta included. Cloudy with a shower or 2 in Kerama. In the Mamasa region, mostly fine in Lae, Madang and Wewak. Mostly fine, then afternoon showers developing in Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine weather in Lorengau, Kokoporabao and Kimbe. Mostly fine, although cloudy at times in Kavieng, partly cloudy with a shower or 2 in Buka. And in the Highlands region, partly cloudy with a few showers developing in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by Money Plus. With you always.
And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Saturday, the 21st of March 2020. On behalf of the entire Emtv news team around the country, stay hygienically safe, wash your hands regularly and avoid crowded spaces. Pleasant viewing. Good night.